We are at Bear Island now on the San Francisco Bay. The bay is the largest estuary on the west coast of the Americas, and this area was set aside recently as a wildlife refuge and saved from development. Up until the latter part of the 18th century, the only humans you would see out here would be the native Ohlone peoples. They might be seen plying these waters in boats made from tule fibers. They also had small dome-shaped houses built of the same material. They may have used the scapula bones from deer, of which they serrated the edges to saw through the coarse and durable tule fibers. The Ohlone were hunter-gatherers. They would harvest acorns and nuts and seasonal berries. On the bay, they would hunt waterfowl and harvest various aquatic animals such as mussels and abalone, and also salmon. Prior to colonial times, the pronghorn and the grizzly bear roamed the Bay Area, which the Ohlone sometimes hunted. Now we're heading up through Golden Gate into Miwok country to a place called Point Reyes. This is roughly where English explorer Sir Francis Drake and his men came ashore. They originally set down in North America, north of here, in a place called Coos Bay in Oregon. About 2 weeks later, they headed south, I guess looking for a more calm area to repair their ships. The journey began in Plymouth, England, and went southwest around South America, where Drake raided a lot of Spanish settlements along the western coast as he headed up the west coast of South America on up to North America. He and his men pivoted around the Oregon Dunes area where Coos Bay is, but there is some dispute as to how far north they went. Somewhere around here they stayed, repaired their ships. Drake did some exploring on foot and laid claim to the new territory for England. He named this new territory, whatever its boundaries were, to be New Albion. Drake did make amiable contact with the native coastal Miwok Indians, although he was involved in a violent confrontation of some kind with natives on the southern tip of South America. And Drake was involved in some slave trading early in his career when he was, I guess, in his 20s, and he had a cousin who was a big slave trader who I guess he broke into the whole slave trading market, which was monopolized by or duopolized by Spain and Portugal at the time in the West African area. It was apparently a very lucrative industry. Drake is not the first explorer to find the west coast of North America. There was a Spanish explorer, Juan Cabrillo, who was checking out this area half a century earlier. Drake and his crew stayed here about 5 weeks, then made their way back to Plymouth by a totally different route, heading southwest through Southeast Asia and around the southernmost part of Africa. site. We're fast forwarding almost 200 years to 1769, even though England and Spain both staked their claims to what is now the western United States. Since that first point of contact in the 16th century, the natives were allowed to flourish unabated for almost 200 years. But time was of the essence, as even the Russians were coming down into the Northwest Territories, eyeing new territory. So it was really a use it or lose it point in history, where Spain really had to actually start to colonize this area. That's Lake San Andreas, where the fault gets its name. Somewhere on this trail we did cross the fault line. I'm not sure where. Over here, you can't see it. It's just over that hill somewhere. It is YouTube headquarters. This place isn't on the typical tourist itinerary. Oh, bummer. Maybe I can get a shot of it online to show you. It's in there. I found this photo online. It didn't have any caption or anything, and I didn't find anything in the local news about what happened here. But it looks like this was taken just before they boarded up the plaque. And as you can see, there are some chisel marks. They chiseled out some of the words. It looked like it was tagged before with graffiti, and they cleaned that off. Anyway, this is how it looked before it was vandalized. The plaque was erected in 1975 to commemorate roughly where the Portola expedition first looked out over the San Francisco Bay. Gaspar de Portola was the first governor of the territory of Las Californias, which included the Baja Peninsula and many of the current states in the western United States. The flagship for the voyage, the San Carlos, left La Paz on the eastern side of the Baja Peninsula and went around the tip of Baja to Cabo San Lucas. There, it was joined by two other ships, the San Antonio and the San Jose, and they set sail northwest against the prevailing ocean current. The supply ship, the San Jose, was lost at sea. The first land party, headed by Portola himself, left Loreto. A second land party left Velicata to the north. The destination was Monterey. The remaining ships by that time, which were hastily built in San Blas on the mainland of Mexico, weren't faring very well, and many of the men had fallen ill. The San Antonio was sent back to San Blas with diaries and information about the journey. It arrived very quickly in about 2 weeks because it had the prevailing currents on its side. The San Carlos remained in San Diego, and much of the party remained, including many friars, where they stayed to found the first California missions. Gaspar de Portola decided to narrow it down to one land party of 74 men to make the remaining journey to Monterey. When they arrived at the Bay of Monterey, they did not recognize it as the grand port that was mapped out by Sebastian Vizcaino 200 years earlier. And they continued on to what is now Moss Beach, where they arrived sickened and exhausted, but they were met by the friendly Ramitush Alone, who guided them up to Sweeney Ridge to look out on the San Francisco Bay.